Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Brett Simmelmacher. Welcome to Sports Talk. I'm sitting in for Dr. Butler, which he has a tough assignment today. He's up at Auburn University. He'll be giving a bachelor's degree to Chuck Persons, which played at Auburn and completed his degree in sports coaching here at the United States Sports Academy. And we're going to give him that award this afternoon or this evening when they play Vanderbilt. On my left here is Sarah Weber, one of our teaching assistants. And on my right is Sandra Geringer.
Yes. Yes.
I don't want to butcher that too bad. But today we're going to talk about something that from the past happened Monday night. What's the word I want to use? Televised or promoted game between the number 1, number 2 teams in the country. Both were 22-0 going into the game. University of Connecticut women's Huskies against the University of South Carolina Gamecock women basketball. It was a sellout, the first time that University of South Carolina ever sold out their arena for a women's women's basketball game. Anytime, and yeah, 18,000 people. Anytime you bring UCON, and I'm going to go ahead and let Sarah share a story with you because she did a game between UNLV and UConn when UConn came to UNLV when you were working there. So go ahead.
Yeah, that was some time ago, and whenever UConn is coming to your arena, you better promote the heck out of it. We had a great time. That was going to be our marquee game that year, and every time you know that a big team like that with such a tremendous record and tremendous history is coming to your school, you better, well, roll out the red carpet, get everything done, do everything you can to get those fans in those seats. And it was a tall task because at that time, UNLV was not a winning program in women's hoops, which was a little difficult, but you know, we broke attendance records and we got people into the Thomas and Mack Center, and it was a great game, and the girls stayed and signed autographs after, and so it was great for the community. You know.
Do you remember any of the players that were on that UConn team?
Oh gosh.
Was that Lobo and the? Was it that?
It might have been. It might have been, and then I just remember meeting Coach Oriema and his assistants, and that one woman has been with him for many
Is
years.
That the blonde?
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. I should have put down her name. But just his presence in an arena is pretty.
He's kind of like the Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams.
Yes.
Bill Self of women's basketball. You know, but all that goes back to Pat Summitt.
Well, and I'd also like to add that South Carolina has the winningest home streak. They had won 45 games at the home base, and also Coach Staley has done a marvelous job in trying to incorporate fans into the game environment. And she has a Facebook page, like her own. It's
So it's not affiliated with the school.
It is kind of, but like you can tell she's writing the post. You can tell she's like, don't forget, it's going to be, there's a lot of stuff going on downtown, so be sure to get there early.
Right.
Things like that you can tell. Not just some random person in the athletics department is writing these posts. Compared to UConn, who's a little more, it's like you see Gino all over the place, but you don't really hear his voice saying, what's happening, kind of thing.
Well, and along those lines, with it being a sellout and all that, the crowds were. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, actually, she actually has the largest attendance on average, with over 14,800 fans per home game. So she does a lot to try to incorporate that fan base. And so she's very tech savvy with her social media. However, Gino incorporated Husky Mania even before social media, and he actually had the actual media, start to catch on to the phrase Husky Mania. So you see both of them kind of having their own ways of promotion and their own individual times, kind of thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and one thing that goes along with that, if you read the article after the game, there was a piece in there about UConn having difficulty getting to the arena because there were so many fans and cars and traffic. And, you know, at one point they said Gino had to get off the bus and tell everybody, hey, you guys are not going to be able to see the game unless we get to the arena. So kind of got to try to make a hole like a VIP coming through here. So,
Yes.
what'd you think of the game itself? You know, before going into the game, I felt UConn was probably going to win the game. Whereas the reason for that, because last year they beat them by 27 in Stores. Is that where they're?
Yes.
Stores,
Connecticut.
Stores,
UConn
Connecticut.
country.
Yeah, they beat them by 27. They were highly ranked as well. And just what UConn has done up to this point in the season. But go ahead. What are your thoughts?
Oh, they
on
were
that?
trying to keep them off the boards early, but they couldn't. I mean, the largest lead they had was 9. South Carolina just couldn't get any closer than that. So the whole game, that was as close as they got, was by 9. And I remember they interviewed Coach at half, and they couldn't keep them off the boards. You know, Brianna Stewart had 25 points, Mariah Jefferson had 12, and Morgan Tuck had 16, and that's been UConn's trio of go-to all season long.
Stewie is just unstoppable. I mean, the amount of points, the 25 points were the top 2 scores on South Carolina's, 13 and 12. So like she doubled basically,
That was her 9th double of the season.
Right, yeah.
Which if you follow basketball at all, double is double figures in points, rebounds, or assists, or any other category that they take statistics on. And that's her 9th for the season. I
Interesting.
didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. But it's interesting though. I watched a little snippet on ESPNW about she went back to her hometown and she grew up in Syracuse. And she was a Syracuse fan. The whole neighborhood was, Syracuse all the way. And so I bet Syracuse is bumped.
Yeah.
UConn won out on that.
You know, an interesting thing about Brianna Stewart is she probably, with all the success that the UConn women's team has had, she could be the first woman in the program history to win 4 national championships.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And at this point in the season, heading towards downstretch, coming around the turn, and the tournament being right around the corner. You know, I wrote down some of the teams that they've played this year. They played Ohio State, which is currently number 6. They just beat Maryland, which was number 5, I believe, when they played. They beat Ohio State 100-56. Now I know that was early in the season, but that's a 40-point win
That was big.
against the top-rated program. They've also played number 23 DePaul. They beat them 86-70. I mean, DePaul's 19-7. Notre Dame, the number 3 team in the country.
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Notre Dame tries every year. I feel so bad for them because they always have a great team. Muffet McGraw does a great job, but she just can't get past UConn. But there is a little bright light because UConn and Notre Dame are not in the same conference anymore, so they don't have to meet up in the conference tournament.
Right. They've also played Florida State, which is number 9 in the country. They beat them 73-49. They played Maryland, which I talked about beating Ohio State. They beat them by 10 as well, 83-73. And of course, number 2, South Carolina. So they play in a somewhat weaker conference in the country, in the American Athletic Conference, the AAC. And there's really not an elite team in there besides them. So he does a great job of scheduling outside of his conference to prepare his team for
to elevate
that late season run.
And it does. It seems like they thrive in the pressure games. I mean, it's like they just try to, knock them out of the arena.
Yeah.
And just say, yeah, we're number 1.
They've scored over 100 points 4 times this season. the statistics are just off the charts when it comes to UConn basketball, but the job that Dawn Staley's done at University of South Carolina, you know, we need to talk about that a little bit. I mean, she's been there only for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
She was at Temple before that for 8 years, so she's been in the business for 16 years. But she could be the, you know, Gino's been at it for 30 years. It seems hard to believe that he's been at it for 30 years, but this is his 30th year at UConn.
It's interesting also that Gino referenced Dawn, Coach Daly, as the Monet Davis of her time in basketball.
Okay.
That in 7th grade, she was just the talk of.
Tell everybody who Monet Davis is. They may not remember that name.
Well, yes, she was a big hit in the Baseball World Series.
Little League.
Yeah, Little League.
We gotta have that in there.
Right, of course, and she's fantastic in basketball too. Who'd she like drive past or
Well,
something?
she wants to go to UConn.
Yeah, right.
In a couple interviews that I've seen, and with her athletic ability, and if she's one of the top players in the country, Gino will be all over.
Oh, sure, of course. But yeah, so it's interesting that she's had a very, you know, great playing career. And so, Gino's basically like, you know, she's a great player. She, you know, she knows how to coach her play.
Three-time Olympic gold medal winner.
Right.
And also played in the WNBA.
Exactly. Yes. And
go ahead. No, she's just done a tremendous job, because if you think about the SEC and all those teams, there's been such parity over the years. It used to be you were always hearing about Tennessee and Coach Summit. Now Coach Summit, and Florida and LSU, Georgia are great women's programs.
Vanderbilt's come along.
Vanderbilt has always been a great program in women's hoops, but Coach Staley has really brought South Carolina into the forefront. The last few years, they've been very competitive and very close to getting there.
And that's why you would think that maybe some of these teams in the SEC and some, you know, even some teams in the Big Ten with Ohio State and Maryland being in the top 10 and you know, Notre Dame in the ACC, and there's some other quality programs in the ACC that with them stepping out of conference and not playing a great conference schedule, that somebody might be able to get them. But, you know, the last time they lost was out at Stanford, and that was in overtime, 88-86. So it's not like they went out there and got pummeled or anything like that. They're in every game. The thing that really stood out to me in watching the game was how hard they play defensively. They just get up in you, especially that little guard. You mentioned she had 16 points. Morgan Tuck's, I think she's the inside player.
Oh, Mariah.
Yeah, Mariah. But she was all over the court, all over the court. Anything else you want to add about Coach Staley?
Actually, I do. I thought this was interesting. She actually has a foundation. She grew up in Philadelphia.
That's right.
And she has developed and created a foundation that helps underprivileged girls in the area. She wants to give back to her community because they were very supportive when she was growing up. And it works on, you know, it basically develops girls with leadership skills and, you know,
Awesome.
Teamwork and things like that. And so I thought that was really admirable that, you know, she's giving back to her community.
And one other thing that I'd like to talk about before we have to end today, if you watch the telecast, the commentators, a lot of the announcers from ESPN were giving a shout out to Holly Rowe, and I'm going to let Sarah go ahead.
Possibly one of the best sideline reporters out there. She's battling breast cancer right now, and what I thought was interesting was that at the men's game over the weekend, the student section at the Kansas game shouted out a big, "We love you, Holly." That was awesome. And then, not last night, but at the South Carolina game, the women's basketball team posted their greetings to her too. I think it was a team photo.
On a tweet or?
Yeah, it was either a tweet or Instagram, but everybody's been showing the love. It's been pouring from everywhere, and I just think it's incredible, and she's an incredible person. And my thoughts and prayers and good luck go to her too. And I'm just so impressed that everybody that she covers or who she's touched is out there supporting her. She's a really great sideline reporter.
And one last thing that I'd like to say is women's basketball and women's sports in general have come a long way over the years. I mean, I'm an older person, been around longer than these two have. But back in my day, women's sports weren't as popular as they are now. And, they even have their own professional league in a lot of different sports. And so they're coming along, and we thought it was good, or we thought it would be good to get one of these type of telecasts out.
And I think it's great that Coach Staley is doing so well, that being a female in women's basketball, again, given.
Well, that's a whole nother issue.
A run
That's a whole other issue in itself
right.
with men coaching women, and, that's another show that we could do in and of itself. But she is representing the females very well. And there are many others out there, not just these two programs that have come a long way. We've talked about some of them throughout this 15 minutes, or actually 16 minutes. So it's time for us to go, but we appreciate you coming in and being with us today. Continue to send your ideas in. Make sure you email Dr. Butler and tell him how well we did today. But continue to email your ideas, sportstalk@ussa.edu. Have a great sports week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.